My name is Oriel Deco, and this is my creative critical reflection on my film opening project called Bonanza, where I will talk about the issues, choices, and accomplishments that were made throughout the project's entirety. The journey began roughly 10 weeks ago, where I was assigned to create an original 2-minute fictional film opening. At first, I thought the task was going to be easy, but as time went on with the ongoing stress and issues of learning how to come up with ideas, how to film, produce, and edit, this was clearly not right. The first step to disaster and constant stress was the choice of the film genre and deciding what the film was going to be about. As you probably already know, with my constant bickering, this choice decision was not easy and took me a week or two to come up with what I have today. But eventually I came up with the decision that I was going to combine two different genres for the film. I decided to combine the action genre with the adventure genre in order to make the film more entertaining. Action and adventure films are very popular, especially within the last couple of years here in the United States, as it combines elements such as the association with narratives of quest and discovery, scenes of combat, and violence and pursuit. To better understand the action and adventure genre, it is best to distinguish between the two terms. Action is associated with a particular kind of scene, including different actions such as explosions, violence, and chases, while adventure is associated with the aspect of story, often in fantasy or crazy setting. All action and adventure films always focus on conflict, especially between the protagonist and the antagonist. When it came to decide what the film was going to be about, I had to think how the storyline and plot would be put together. In order to do this, I started coming up with different ideas for the film. I tried to incorporate as much ideas as possible, especially things that I love to do, one being the love and passion I have for sports. From the start, I wanted the film opening to at least be related to any type of sport. And if you already watched my film opening or have read through my blog posts, you would have known that I involved the sport of basketball in my film, even though my heart and soul belongs to the sport of baseball. I just thought basketball was going to be the easiest sport to shoot, no pun intended, and act out in the film. As I came up with the idea to include basketball in the film, I ended up coming up with the storyline that took place in a fictional modern era that was based on the main character or protagonist, Jason Carter, where he is stressed with all of his college and advanced classes, and the only way to avoid this constant stress and anxiety was to play his favorite sport of basketball at his local park. This was the point where I was stuck on the storyline because I wanted to make the film more exciting and more amusing to the audience. Speaking of the audience, I wanted to focus the film with a general audience of teenagers and young adults who are action and adventure lovers that seek thrill and always seek the best for the protagonist. However, I eventually came up with the idea of incorporating a villain named Maximilian and a magical basketball to the film, and to really create that suspense and excitement that I wanted the audience to experience, I came up with the idea of a battle scene in a different dimension in which the magic basketball took the main character to once the name of the basketball was said out loud, which of course was the word Bonanza, also the title of the film, to fight the antagonist or villain of the storyline, where the battle scene determined if the protagonist would return to his normal dimension and reality. However, later into the production and filming stage of the film opening project, I decided that the battle or fight scene that I previously came up with for the storyline was a little out of pocket, and I decided to make the battle scene into a basketball 1v1 between the protagonist and the villain. I did not change anything else leading up to the basketball 1v1 scene. I just kept it as the same as before. A big inspiration on the style and ideas of the film was the piece of work by Jake Kasdan, an American film and television director, producer, screenwriter, and actor, and what he has done with the Jumanji agreed. The way Casting executed these Jumanji films with his idea styles and directing abilities so far is something I took into consideration when making my film opening. In these films, he gives a sense of action and adventure with a mix of comedy that gives the audience a thrilled and humorous feeling. Kasdan also used many elements of film, including different shots, movements, cuts, and edits, special effects, and mise-en-scène that I found unique and interesting. Now having the storyline and plot of the film ready to go to the next step, it was to start production and the shooting of the film. To help me with the production and shooting part of the film, I created shot lists that contain the different shots and their elements, including the scenario and the shot number. And I also created scene sketching that contain small sketches of the different scenes and also included some of the scene's elements like the dialogue, the scenario, the setting of the scene, and the scene number. Shooting these different shots and scenes was not as difficult as I thought it was going to be like the other parts of the film opening, as it took less time. In the beginning of the film, I entered with a shot of the outside of my house to show the setting of the first setting of the film to the audience. Right now, I'm in my editing software, and I'm going to show you that scene. Of course, since it was my first shot, my first establishing shot, it's in the front of the editing program. There it is right there. So from here, I then went into transition to shoot to a shot of the protagonist Jason frustrated with his homework. Here's the shot of him frustrated with his homework. Then I transition from closing the laptop, upon a few shots to be exact. I will show you that right now. There it is. Shot of him shutting the laptop. Another transition of him leaving the room, going to the garage, getting his basketball, and then going to his local park to play basketball, to blow off some steam. Throughout these scenes, I use transitions in order to create suspense of where the protagonist will go and what he will do after the previous scene. I continue this trend for the entire film, especially when the outside scenes were especially with the outside scenes, where he was playing basketball by himself and when he was battling the villain Maximilian in a basketball 1v1. After the shooting of the film, the next part was the editing, and in my opinion the hardest part, as I never edited any form of media in my life. At first, I chose a basic editing program that included an amateur set of settings and features, but it was easy to navigate through. But later on in the process, I switched to Adobe Premiere Pro and their editing software, which is what I'm on right now, as it was recommended to me. And when looking and playing through the settings and features, I found out that it was the best choice for me. At first, I started slow with the editing content, especially with the cuts and transitions, but then I eventually caught up with the system and started editing the video. Contents including the transitions, cuts, importing and exporting of video clips, and importing and exporting of audio clips on a roll. An example where I imported an audio clip was in the basketball 1v1 scene between the protagonist, Jason, and the antagonist, Maximilian, where I imported a battle background music audio clip. As you can see, I'm going through the audio clips, and the one with the green right here is the battle scene background music. After going on a roll in the editing process, I found editing to be easy and very fun to do. In the end of the project, I was able to create an amazing piece of media in my eyes, of course, with the help of my younger brother and my older cousin who played the roles of the characters in my film. That could have been much more if it was conducted into a real big hit in the movie industry, and this could have been done by distributing the film throughout the many social media platforms for marketing purposes, which would have made it more likely to be put on streaming services such as Netflix and Hulu, and eventually in theaters due to the exposure. I would have made the decision especially to target a maximum range of audiences from all over the globe. The action part of the storyline is a popular genre that is associated with or among teenagers to young adults to even middle-aged adults. The adventure part of the storyline is popular among any age group, but is primarily associated with the younger audiences. To conclude, this has been quite a long, intense journey, so all I want to say is thank you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed my overall performance in creating this film opening. I also hope to create more projects in the future to talk about with this audience again.